Let's go! NFC North Roundtable is back. These teams have made their draft selections. Some are better, some are worse. Well, at least they all think they're better. We'll see what these guys have to think about the draft and their division opponents. We're going to be grading the draft tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the NFC North Roundtable. Make sure you hit that like button. Let your friends and family members know about the channel as well. We're coming up on 4,000 subscribers, less than 200 away. So help the channel grow before the season starts. We want to be over 4K subs. Thank you all who are subscribed. And if you haven't, don't waste your time. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, punch that like button, because we will be giving you all the NFL, NFC North coverage throughout the season. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's go. We're going to start out with my man, Nick. How you feeling, Nick?
First of all, I see the chat going crazy right now. Shout out to all the Bear Downs in there right now, because I am ecstatic right now with how the draft result went, TD. I mean, what more can you ask for? We obviously took the guy that we all knew we were going to take, but shout out to Atlanta for messing up and, giving us Roma Dunze practically. We got a blue chip punter, as weird as that is to say, and we ended up getting two really good depth picks. So overall, Ryan Poles absolutely cooked, and where Dion is right now, you'll be moving me there for the rest of the season, starting in 2024. So get ready.
Old proclamation. He just gonna pass Cole. He gonna pass One Bar. What's up, One Bar? What's going on, man?
Man, Nick's excited about a punter. That shows the state of the Bears. Hey, look, man, just like Nick, we didn't get Caleb Williams, but we got our quarterback of the future. We got, and we also, Dallas Turner was just a cherry on top that nobody expected. But the big thing out of this, and I know we're going to break it down more, is just the fact that the Vikings didn't give up additional first-round picks. I mean, going into this, a lot of Vikings fans were pretty much under the impression that we're going to have to give up a first-rounder next year to get up to like 5 to get J.J. McCarthy. So we gave up a little bit. We move up one spot. We get McCarthy. It was beautiful. Vikings fans are very excited to see what J.J. McCarthy brings to the table. And also we got some pretty good players in the mid to later rounds too.
Nice. We're going to dive into the details in just a moment. But before we do, Rocky Green Bay Packers, baby. What's up? What's going on?
It was a very long weekend. The Packers picked 11 times. They went into this draft with 11 picks, traded down in the second, traded back up in the fourth, traded back up in the fifth, and at the end of the day ended with 11 picks. I actually got the first two exactly right with Jordan Morgan, Edgerrin Cooper, so I was very happy to see that. It's hard to predict the Green Bay Packers. I know a lot of people were shocked about that first-round pick, but it makes a lot of sense, man. It was an awesome weekend. We got a lot of talent added to this roster, a lot of versatility, and a lot of athletes.
Man, exciting times. I can't wait to get into some of the players that you guys got. Dion, you're on top of the world. You're on top of the division. Until they dethrone you, you are the champ. How you feeling, man?
Yeah, man, the draft, it's amazing, especially now as a Lions fan. It's like a big difference from what it used to be as a Lions fan, where you got to sit there and you had a pretty good feel of where the Lions were going to go, and they wouldn't really move around the board, so you kind of just like, all right, they're probably going to pick where they're sitting. But things have changed completely with Brad Holmes. I mean, 1 minute we're thinking for sure they're absolutely trading back. We don't have a pick for like 100, and he's going to move up in the first round. And then he kind of just throws position out the window. He's like, you might think we need a receiver. Watch us draft 0 receivers, go back-to-back cornerbacks. So I absolutely love it. It's a ton of fun, and this year did not disappoint.
All right. Each and every single one of you guys' teams have made some moves. You all seem very excited about the moves. Let's get into the draft grades. I want to start one by one because we want to start off with the Chicago Bears, ladies and gentlemen. We're all going to give our takes and our analysis and give a draft grade for the Bears. But before we go to Nick, we're gonna get you last, Nick. We're gonna go right back to Dion. Tell me what you thought about the Chicago Bears draft and what grade would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, it started off kind of a very important. We all expected Caleb Williams to go 1, so there was no shock there, but it was 9. And even though there was a lot of scenarios where this was probably going to happen, I still hated it as a Lions fan. That Roma Dunze is just chilling there at 9. You're like, they're going to take the guy, and then they take the guy, and they've already added pieces to that this offseason to be honest with you, when you look at the players that they walked away with, for me personally, I was a big fan of a lot of the guys that they walked away with, whether the offensive tackle whose name out of Yale. I'm not even going to try it. All right, we're just going to call him the guy out of Yale. Love that pick in the third round. Yeah. Hey, look, all right, I'll let Bass handle that, but I love that pick for them in the third round. I think there's real flexibility within this game long term, even though it may not all be there right now. And then they followed it up with a punter, which is all punter round 4. That's probably your best pick in the draft. But seriously, though, it was coming back and getting Austin Booker. I absolutely love that. Getting Austin Booker in round 5 feels crazy, and he also kind of feels like an offensive line, the offensive lineman in a sense where it may not be there immediately, but if we're the Bears and we're willing to say, okay, what is this going to look like year 2, 3, 4? I love what that could turn into for them, right? They have Sweat, so they have their piece. Their defense was legit last year, but down the road, I love what they ended up adding there. Do you want me to give my grade right now, TD?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get it.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I hate to do this. I'm giving them an A. I thought they had an incredible draft across the board. I like the players that they walked away with, because we came in saying, man, they have like no draft picks this year. They had a massive gap after 9, and just look at the names they walked away with. I thought they killed it, so I'll give them an
A. Let me ask you this, Dion. Is Rome Odunze automatically a better receiver than any receiver the Lions have?
No. Yeah, you saw St. Brown. St. Brown got that bag. No, he is absolutely not.
I'm just curious.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question. I ain't mad at you, TD. It's a good question to ask, but he's absolutely not. But Rome Odunze, man, I did love him, bro. You couldn't go wrong, to be honest. If you walked away with Neighbors, Harrison, or Odunze, you were going to be in a really good spot. And I think the Bears were just very fortunate that the way this draft played out, that there was those other 2 guys there, because honestly, in a lot of years, he's probably the first receiver off the board. So he's not better than St. Brown, but he is legit.
Just wonder, just curious, you know. At least I know they got the best punter now. Maybe.
All right, they're gonna be using him a lot. That's for sure. They're gonna be using him a lot.
No, they're not.
Well, let's move forward. Let's get over to Bass. I want to get your grades on the Chicago Bears. What did you think about their draft, and put a letter on it?
So I actually did really like it, and I just, like Dion, kind of hate to say this. We all expected Caleb Williams. Like there's only so many ways they could have messed that up if they went like Jaden Daniels or something, which wasn't going to happen. So Caleb Williams, they did what they're supposed to, and I'm excited to see how that career goes, because obviously we're playing them twice a year. Rome Odunze, that pissed me off beyond all belief, because every time I did a mock draft, and that would occur where if Odunze falls to 9, I'd be like, I really don't want this to happen. But if it happens, I'm going to be pissed. So it exactly happened. And I thought maybe like the Bears could have traded that out. But with Odunze sitting there, you just can't do that. But they could have picked up more picks with a trade there. And it's Karan Amagaji, Dion. That's the tackle out of Yale you're talking about there. So he was I know, and he was one of my favorite tackles. So like, again, you go Odunze at 9, pisses me off. Amagaji falls all the way to 75, which I had like a late 2nd round grade on, pisses me off. So I was like, damn, like the Bears are actually doing a great job here. And then they came back down to earth and drafted a punter in the 4th. Punting is a good aspect of the game. I understand it, but I think I feel like you could have waited a little bit with the lack of draft picks you had. Like at that point, wasn't that your last draft pick? Like you could have ended you have Austin Booker, but you traded 2025 4th for Booker, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so yeah, that's to my next point. Like if they hadn't have done that, your last pick in a 4-man draft would have been a punter, which is interesting. The Booker, I agree with Dion. The value there in the 5th, I think, is excellent. But again, giving up a next year 4th, that brings down the grade for me. I loved Austin Booker. It was a guy I actually mocked the Packers a couple times. So all of the players you got, I loved. I'm going B+ though, just because the punter and the draft pick next year that they traded for to get Austin Booker in the 5th.
B+. Well, I got one question for you, Bass. Is Caleb Williams already coming in better than Jordan Love?
Yeah, no, I'm not answering that.
It's a fair.
I'm not. It's not fair. I'm not entertaining that. I ain't entertaining that. He hasn't played a snap in the NFL. He's a Packers fan. Come on.
Just curious.
I ain't entertaining that. That's bait. That's bait.
Let's do it one bar. What are your thoughts on the Chicago Bears draft, and put a letter on it?
Nah, this is easy for me. I mean, and this is going to be a theme throughout this when I'm looking at everybody's draft. It's like they could have stopped after those first 2 picks and forfeited the rest of their draft. They still get an A. So spoiler alert, it's an A. I mean, to get Caleb Williams, Odunze, I mean, putting Odunze with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. I mean, the Bears got something going on there. Obviously, it comes down to what Caleb Williams does, and he should probably do damn well with those weapons. So I thought the Bears absolutely killed it. I'm not going to blow smoke up your butt. When it comes to tackles, I didn't sit and really dig too deep into those guys because the Vikings, it was like just not on their radar whatsoever. He definitely went where he should have went. I know nothing about the dude. The punter himself, I'm with Baz on this. Like if that would have been their last pick, I would have been like, wow. But then they come back and get Booker, a guy that should not have been on the board at that point. Yeah. They did give up a future 4th round pick, but it's just like I'm to the point in the draft, especially what the Vikings did. It's like, if you got a guy out there and he's your guy, who cares? Just go up and get him. Go get him, give up the draft capital. And you know what? In 2 years, you might look like an absolute moron. We'll see what Booker does. We'll see what some of these other guys do that we traded up for. But the Bears killed it. It's an A. Odunze at pick 9. Not great. Don't like it. Don't like it at all.
What do you just don't like Odunze at 9 as the player?
No, I don't like it as a Vikings fan. I don't want him. I don't want to go against the dude. Like, he should not have been there. Leave it to the Falcons to take Penix, and then also give Vikings fans extra heartburn for a quarterback going off. So that whole pick alone was just crazy, and it's a huge win for the Bears. Huge.
Man, okay, we got to get into that. But real quick, one bar. Which combination is better now? Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, or JJ McCarthy, Justin Jefferson?
I'd take Justin Jefferson with any quarterback.
Sam Darnold, baby.
Yeah, let's exactly. Sam Darnold. Until Odunze, like the Caleb Williams question, Jordan Love. Let's have him play a snap. Let's see what happens. But they got something good. But Jefferson 10 times out of 10.
All right, well, Nick, everybody's saying your quarterback ain't played a snap yet, man. How do you like your draft? And go ahead and give us your final grade on it.
Well, obviously, I'm just flying high right now. I mean, we got our guy for the future. I know that on this show, I've talked about trading back and getting a haul and Justin Fields giving him another chance. Past is the past, future is the future. I'm pumped about Caleb Williams. Like, he brings such good energy. He just overall is a good guy to have in the locker room. He's a good ball player. He's just everything that we were looking for, and everything that we built around him, it just makes sense now. So, I mean, that was the easy layup. What I was the most ecstatic about when we talk, obviously, it seems like it's a reoccurring theme in here, but Rome Odunze, that was an absolute steal at 9. Shout out to Ryan Pace, our old GM, with telling his current GM in Atlanta, like, hey, you should take Michael Penix at 8. When we just signed Kirk Cousins. Like, you should do that. So shout out to Ryan Pace for helping us out still and making up for the disaster he left Ryan Poles. But obviously pumped about that pick. We have arguably a top 5 wide receiver room now with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze. And then, picking up a Karan Amegaji. Baz. I've been working on that one for a minute. Mm-hmm. Local Chicago kid. I think we stole him at 75. He only played in 4 games. And before this past year, he was only projected in the 3rd. So he could have been ranked a lot higher. Polls obviously went out. He had a high RAS. Really liked the kid. I also like that it creates a little bit of a competition with Braxton Jones now. So, getting a swing tackle, but also potentially an upgrade for the future, was super pumped about. Now, I just want to defend my punter comment real quick. Is that, we were last the last 2 seasons in punting. So we clearly needed an upgrade at that position. And Torrey Tate every single NCAA record as a punter. He single-handedly beat Wisconsin last year for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I don't know who watched that game, but he's a game changer. And Poles kind of said it on the McAfee show today that he's so good at pinpointing in the end zone. Just overall, but not the end zone, but close to the end zone. So it's a huge upgrade and a need that we had. And at 122, I mean, it's not bad. And then getting Austin Booker at 144. Technically, we got 2 players for that 4th round next year, Baz, because we traded that pick, ironically, to the Bills earlier and got Ryan Bates, who's going to be our future center. And then we ended up trading back for it and trading a 4th. So technically, we got 2 players out of it. And Austin Booker was I saw some people had him projected late 2nd, mid to mid 3rd, and we got him in the 5th. So I'm going to give it an A+. I think Ryan Poles absolutely killed this draft, got everything that they wanted. And for everyone that's watching, Ian Cunningham, our assistant general manager, had to actually physically hold Ryan Poles back from calling the Atlanta Falcons to move up to 8. That was confirmed right after. I thought that was kind of cool. Like, that's how badly we wanted this guy. And we got every guy that we wanted. So super pumped about it. A+ for the Bears. I'm obviously stoked about it, and I can't wait for Deion's spot all next season.
Wow. All right. Well, Deion said, the Bears got an A. Baz said B plus, one bar A, and then you're saying A plus. Really nice grades. Real quick dive into the Bears. I see that you all focus so like primarily on offense. Okay, what's the state of the O line? Are you guys ready for war? You still need to fix a few things.
So we went out and got Coleman Shelton, who is a former Super Bowl champion center for the LA Rams, which I was pretty stoked about. I thought that was a good pickup. We also brought in Ryan Bates, who we actually wanted from the Bills last year. Bills matched his offer. He ended up getting hurt. Then he didn't play. So the Bears brought in a guy they actually looked at a couple years ago. So overall, there's an upgrade at the center position. We were absolutely terrible with Lucas Patrick and Cody Whitehair. Those guys couldn't do anything. So we upgrade. I know Baz is laughing because Lucas Patrick couldn't do jack. So our guards are going to stay the same. Hopefully Nate Davis, who we signed that huge contract to from Tennessee last year, stays healthy. Because when he did play, he did have above an 80 PFF grade, which is really good. Tevin Jenkins, when healthy, was an 84 PFF, I believe, over the games that he did play. But his average is down, obviously, because he's hurt. And then Darnell Wright had an awesome rookie season. Braxton Jones, I still have some questions about because he's an average left tackle, but he gave up a ton of pressures last year, pretty penalized. Overall, the offensive line is upgraded. Are they ready to be a Super Bowl offensive line? I think we're 1 year away. I personally wanted the Bears to take Cedric Van Pran at 75, but it is what it is. So overall, it's upgraded, but we'll see how it's happening. I'm pumped about it. The offense is a lot better than it was last year.
So you have a much better O-line. You have a quarterback you believe in. You have a nice wide receiving core. Running back, where are you guys at there?
So we got DeAndre Swift this past year, which was a good pickup. I know Dion knows him a little too well. I think we got him for a good deal. He's young. He's fast. He could do it. He's a dual threat out of the backfield. And then we still have Khalil Herbert that in only 9 games last year rushed for over 600 yards. So he could have had a huge season last year. And then we got Rashawn Johnson, our rookie, who's a great blocker, had 600 all-purpose yards. So overall, I mean, our running back room looks solid, and they were second last year in rushing. So I'm stoked about it overall. And our tight end room, low-key scary. Cole Kmet, and then we brought in Gerald Everett. I'm liking what the Bears are doing right now. The offense looks pretty darn good.
I'm shocked to be the team at the bottom of the league. I'm hearing a lot of really good assets and a good offense coming into the season. We'll see how the defense holds, but this is going to be interesting for your foes up here that look nervous. So we'll see. All right. Dion, like who? All right, man. Let's move along. Let's go to one bar here. Minnesota Vikings on the clock, selecting some players for the future, man. We're going to start with Bass on this one. Talk to me. How do you feel about the Vikings draft, and put a letter on it?
So I thought they did good with the whole McCarthy situation because, as one bar stated, like they were kind of set up to say, hey, we're going to give up a future first round. We're going to give up 11. We're going to give up 21. They only have to move up to 10 because, again, the Falcons just, again, who knows? But that's not the point here. I still think they overpaid, though. But you're going to get your quarterback, so I understand you're probably going to have to overpay. Give him 11, 129, and 157 to move up one spot, getting 203 back. On the Rich Hill chart, it's like a 14-point overpay. Not that bad, but slight. But, you're going up to get your guy, still a young quarterback. I'm excited to see what he can do in Minnesota, of course, with the weapons that he has with, Jefferson, Hockenson when he's healthy, Jordan Addison. It's going to be interesting. I think it's a lot better of a pick than the Michael Penix pick. That's for sure. Great upside there. At 17, Dallas Turner, I think, was terrific value. Such an offensive-sided draft. We see Latu, the first defender, at 15, when I thought it should have been Dallas Turner. So the Vikings to move up again there. Sure, again, I think they overpaid, but you went up and got one of the best, if not the best, defenders in this draft class, giving up 23, 167, 2025 third, a 2025 fourth. I think that's a lot of picks to give up. But again, it's a top tier defender, and if he turns into something great on that defense, that's awesome. Kyrie Jackson, the fourth, I like him. I didn't really know where to grade him exactly in this draft because I just don't know where to fit him. It was hard for me. It was one of those guys that I was like, oh, could he be a Packer? I don't know about that. So I don't mind Kyrie Jackson the fourth. Walter Rouse in the sixth. I think it's a good lineman to get. I think he has some tackle guard versatility. A kicker in the sixth. The Packers signed their old kicker, Greg Joseph, so they obviously needed to replace him. And Will Reichert, is that how you say the last name? I'm pretty sure. Yes, good kicker there. And Michael Juergens, center out of Wake Forest. Again, adding more offensive line depth. And Levi Drake Rodriguez, if I'm being completely honest, I know nothing about, so I can't really grade on that. But, getting McCarthy and Dallas Turner definitely gives them a boost here. But I think I think the amount that they had to trade to do both of those and give up so many future picks, man, I'm at B-, and I'm sorry, One Bar, but I'm at B- just because of those trades. I value future draft picks, and I value getting more talent on the team. But hey, if McCarthy works out and Dallas Turner becomes your best defender, then I'm an idiot. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, JJ McCarthy or Jordan Love? You're not answering that.
Who you talking to?
Bass.
No, not answering that.
All right, man. Let's move over to Nick real quick. Minnesota Vikings. Tell us what you thought. Give us a letter. And wait, hold on. I'm sorry, Bass. You said what again? B.
I got B-, man. I'm
B-.
sorry.
It's okay. Make sure. I got you. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm going to go a little higher than that. I think that the Vikings, they lost Kirk Cousins. You lose Danielle Hunter. Your first 2 picks, you're finding the young guys to replace both of them. So, JJ McCarthy, I think, kind of like Bass, I kind of agree. You did overpay a little bit, but, you got your guy. That was the guy that you wanted for your roster moving forward. And I respect it. I mean, he could be a good quarterback. He's obviously not going to do well against the Bears because we all know how that's going to go. But I think it was a good pick. It's a development pick. You address your quarterback right there, but they stole Dallas Turner at 17. I know it was a really, really heavy offensive first round, and then defensive was super scary, but 17 for Dallas Turner for a guy that was projected in the top. I mean, he was projected to the Bears a few times. I mean, One Bar, you absolutely stole him from everybody. So huge pickup there because a guy that can drop back into coverage and go after the quarterback. I don't know. I mean, I don't know too much about the offensive lineman they brought in. I do like the cornerback you brought in Jackson from Oregon. I think he's a solid player. I think he, could develop into something special. And then, so I actually did a little research on Drake Rodriguez in the background. And honestly, I think he's a solid player. He's super athletic. I think that was a super late round steal for you, One Bar. I give you a B+. I really think that you addressed areas of need that you were looking for. You got depth pieces. Obviously, you had some free agency stuff. So I think the Vikings, I know that One Bar was kind of looking at it like, oh, man, we could be having a very long season next year. But I don't think so. I think the Vikings are still going to be, a decent team next year, especially for considering everything they lost. Hats off to the Vikings for a good draft.
Wow. What grade did you give him? A B+, right?
B+.
All right. Dion, talk to us. Minnesota Vikings, and give us a letter.
Yeah, this was a weird one. I think because just looking at the Vikings in general, there's specifically offensively, there's not a ton of spots that just poke holes in what they could have added. And I don't hate the fact that they moved up like they did to go get Dallas Turner, because as Nick just laid out, not many of us even expected him to be available. So it's like, hey, he's just there. Go get the guy. I mean, I think maybe you could have argued like, oh, what if they would have just chilled and took an interior defense line? Well, it's like, well, Byron Murphy would have been gone. So you would have still had to move up and go get Byron Murphy if that's the guy that you wanted there. So I think you can make cases for that. Really, for me, it's the Kyrie Jackson one, which is my favorite pick. I was a big fan of Kyrie Jackson, and I think where he can step in immediately will actually fit what Minnesota likes to do defensively. I think he'll have immediate success in that similar role. But then as time goes on, I think the buy-in is that maybe we can develop and make him more consistent as a press coverage corner, and you got something there. The weird fit there is that, and I was talking to Vikings fans before this, is just that you guys have a lot of young cornerbacks seemingly already on the depth chart. So it's like, okay, we're kind of plugging him in. I had Vegas fans tell me they weren't even sure if we were going to go corner because there were so many guys that were already kind of in that category. And then what Bass said, which is what you gave up. And hey, please correct me if I'm wrong, One Bar, but your guys' next year's picks are a first-round pick, a fifth-round pick, and a fifth-round pick, right?
Yes, sir. Let's go, baby.
So it's like, y'all have like no picks next season. And like I said, I don't want to hate on it because where you guys are at, I don't hate what you did. I hate the fact that you guys landed JJ McCarthy. I thought maybe it'd be a crazy world in which that just didn't happen because now I have to root against a guy. I didn't want to do that. And then I'm not mad at the Dallas Turner one necessarily. I think you can make arguments elsewhere, but I'm not mad at it. I think I like what you guys did there. I think as an indoor team, he's also going to fit really well. And he checked a lot of boxes for me specifically. The questions I have is beyond the first three. It's Walter Rouse, who I wasn't a huge fan of at Oklahoma. However, I didn't watch too much of him this past year. My whole thing was based on last year when I thought he was going to come up for the draft. You go back kicker, Will Reichert. Hey, I don't have any issue drafting kicker. Those guys can win some games for you. It feels weird after the first three for me. So that's where I'm kind of jumbled up here. I'm bouncing around with this between really a C+ and a B+. I'm kind of in that range. I think ultimately, though, because you guys ended up with JJ McCarthy, I'm going to push a little bit higher and go with a B. I think JJ McCarthy is going to be a legitimate NFL quarterback. So I think if that hits, that's all that really matters.
Before we go to you, One Bar, one thing I want to talk about on draft night was there was a lot of politicking and a lot of maneuvering in the first round, and Atlanta did throw everyone off. But I will say this: your front office saw the vision. JJ McCarthy there, you had to give up a little more because the Jets was a win-win situation. So I'm pretty sure they pressed to get a little more because you had the Saints and the Raiders right behind you guys ready to move up too. So you got your guy. They did what was necessary. How do you feel about all the maneuvering and the players they brought in, especially with the sacrifice for next year's draft, and put a grade on it?
Yeah, I mean, as far as draft compensation, like, I could care less that we have a first and 2/5 next year. I mean, we went through the whole Rick Spielman where we would have 10 picks and 15 picks. Like, if you have that many picks, like, you're doing something wrong. I mean, come on, give me a break. I mean, so the fact that they're actually going up and getting their guy, like when we say we gave up too much to go get JJ McCarthy, we were projected to give up way more and go up way higher. So, like, as a Viking, from a Viking standpoint, it's like we gave up way less. Like, I could care less. Like, we got our quarterback. JJ McCarthy's coming into a fantastic situation. As a Vikings fan, like, if he doesn't step on the field next year, I'm completely fine with that. The dude's 21 years. He's going to be 22 next January. Like, if put some baby gloves on, let do whatever you have to do. If we have to go through a year of Sam Darnold, so be it. And then draft compensation to go get Dallas Turner, like, he's a top 10 pick. So, like, when we look at our draft compensation next year, we still have our first. And we got really like 2 top 10 picks this year. So you got to put Dallas Turner in the mix. You can't just look at the draft compensation as a whole. I mean, Dallas Turner at 17 is insane. So that should not have happened. He's going to add beautiful depth. I mean, we lost Daniel Hunter. We got Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel. And now we get to throw Dallas Turner in the mix. And I think Brian Flores is going to have a field day for him. So if I'm being honest, do I wish we would have gave up less? Well, yeah, absolutely I would have. But I'm not up at night as far as the draft compensation that we gave up because we're going to get comp picks. We lost Cousins, Hunter. We're going to get another third probably as a comp pick. So that's fine when all is said and done. And maybe next year they don't get as fancy and as ballsy to trade up. And maybe they actually, do some trades to trading back in the first, whatever, to get some additional picks. I don't see us ending up with 3 picks. So draft-wise, all good. JJ McCarthy, like I said, I'll take him at 10 any day. It was fantastic. Can't wait to see what he brings. Big question marks, obviously. The big thing, hey, they ran the ball at Michigan. He wasn't asked to win games, all that fun stuff. We'll see what happens. He came into the best situation. If you ask Caleb Williams in a dark room by himself, if he'd rather be a Bear or Viking, you'd say a Viking. Any rookie quarterback would want to go to a Viking situation with the weapons they have. And like I said, Dallas Turner was just I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that video when Kevin O'Connell, when Kwesi said, hey, we're drafting Dallas Turner. Kevin O'Connell's fate, you couldn't believe it. He thought he was joking. So it was beautiful. It was a great gift. Kyrie Jackson. Honestly, I love Kyrie Jackson. I was a little bit torn basically when we got him, though, like, because cornerback really was, we didn't have a 2nd round pick. We didn't have a 3rd round pick, and we went corner. Granted, it was good value, but a lot of us were thinking interior defensive line, maybe interior offensive line. So Jackson was a little bit of a surprise. I like it. The dude's almost 6'4". You can do a lot of things with him. The Walter Rouse in round 6. Once you get to round 6, it's just kind of like, all right, whatever. Walter Rouse, depth piece, possibly. We'll see where they end up landing him. Will Reichard, not a big fan of drafting kickers, but I do like Will Reichard from Alabama. The dude's battle tested. He's got a big leg. We'll see. Vikings kickers never overly pan out. We'll see if Will can break that streak. And then we get to Juergens and Levi Drake Rodriguez. We'll see what happens. Juergens is going to add depth in an interior offensive line where we need depth. Levi Drake Rodriguez, the more I look into him as anybody else, draft day, when you see your players draft, you're like, oh, man, I can't believe we take him. And then the next day you're like, oh, I love this guy. So, of course, now I love this guy, just like everybody convinces themselves every single year. So I think they did. I honestly think they did well. I'm going to go higher because I'm a Vikings fan. I'm going A- on this. And really the main point is, if you were to tell me we're getting JJ McCarthy, Dallas Turner, and still have our 1st round next year, I would call you a damn liar.
Wow. Man, oh, man, oh, man. The draft definitely did fall in you guys' favor with JJ McCarthy and Dallas Turner. There's no doubt about that. But I wanted to ask you real quick, one bar. They obviously took care of Brian Flores and gave him some defensive players that he can work with. But when you look at the offensive side of the ball, JJ McCarthy, is there a chance that he can show something in camp and actually be the starter? Or is this a solidified sit behind Sam Darnold situation?
I think they'll actually let him battle it out. I think they will give Sam Darnold a little more padding just because there's not. I'm not going to say there's not much of a need to get Mark McCarthy out there, but just Vikings fans, I don't think we're going to go out there and win 10, 11 games. I'm not saying it's impossible, but like I think they're going to give Darnold a little bit longer leash and see what happens and throw him out there to start the season. I don't think it's crazy to think McCarthy can't start week 1. I mean, the dude, when you watch him, he's poised. He's ready to go. So we will see. But like I said, if Darnold's the starter for the first full season or first 5 weeks, I wouldn't be surprised.
All right. So J.J. McCarthy or Caleb Williams, who you got, one bar?
Oh, I got J.J. McCarthy.
Nick, you agree, Nick? You agree, Nick?
Of course not.
What's growing up in Minnesota? Because it must be strong.
Oh
no,
man.
I do not agree, TD.
That's fair. That's fair.
Let me ask you, Dion, who you got between those two?
JJ McCarthy. Long term, I take JJ.
Wow.
Michigan guy.
What about
Well,
you?
I think it's about character at quarterback. I'd take him.
What about you, Bass?
Caleb Williams, he's a Packers fan.
Oh wow.
He is not. He is not.
He is. Yes, he is. Now he might not be, but he was.
He said that he grew up admiring Aaron Rodgers, and now that he's with the Jets, he likes the Jets.
Oh my.
I don't know.
Wow.
This is the look of someone in denial.
Interesting times, ladies and gentlemen. We got 200 people watching right now. You guys do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let your friends and family members know about it. We're going to move right along, and now we're going to go into Green Bay, Basaraki. But before we hear from him, let's start out with one bar again. Tell us about the Packers and give us a grade.
So Packers, spoiler alert, like I think every NFC North team did fantastic. Like this is going to be a damn fun division to watch in the future years. Everybody killed it. So Packers, I mean, Morgan, obviously a very solid pick. They needed him at left tackle. And Baz can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming he's going to be the day one starter regardless of what goes on there. I mean, you can look at it and say like, hey, it was earlier than anybody thought. And when he went, I'm like, all right, it might be a little bit early. But again, I keep going back to it. It's like everybody's like GM's boards aren't what we're looking at. Like,
thank you.
Like that was their guy. So that's all that matters in my world. Like, it's not like they just randomly said, all right, he's ranked 60th, but we're going to take him, or 45th, 40th. We're just going to take him for the hell of it. That was their guy. So I'm not going to fault him for that. It's a good pick. He's probably going to be a very good left tackle in this league for years to come. So good pick. The Cooper pick was fantastic. Honestly, if you were to switch the Cooper and Morgan where they were drafted, I'd probably give it a higher grade just because like Cooper, I think, is going to be a menace to deal with. I love that dude. They drafted, I don't know, what was it, 3 safeties, but Bullard, very good safety out of Georgia. Hopefully he's better than the safety the Vikings drafted from Georgia a couple years ago. I think they're going to have a lot of fun with him. I've seen comparisons to Josh Metellus, how they use him. And Bullard's a good pick. Marshawn Lloyd pick was a little bit surprising, but I do like Marshawn Lloyd quite a bit. I mean, they're going to have a wheelhouse of running backs there. It's going to be interesting to see how they work those guys in. I could see a lot of those guys getting carries week in and week out. Was it Hopper, the linebacker from Missouri.
Yep.
That one was a little bit early for me. I was surprised it went linebacker that quick again. But we'll see how that one pans out. And then I'm not gonna go through every single pick, but let me just fast forward to round 7. Pratt and King, round 7. They got some good steals there. Kalen King was a guy that he's always projected like any early as 4 to round 7. Where's this dude going to go? Good value there. We'll see what pans out. And then Pratt, again, a quarterback that probably should have been taken earlier. They're taking a swing on him. So the Packers, it was kind of like a Vikings draft. It seemed like they were on the clock every damn time. A previous Vikings draft, I should say, where we had so many picks. So they're on the clock continuously. But I did like their draft overall. I thought it was good. They got some. It wasn't as sexy as the other ones, but it was more meat and potatoes where they got some guys that are going to fill some holes. So I give it a B+.
B+ from one bar. Is Javon Bullard going to lock down Justin Jefferson? That's the question, one bar.
Hey, maybe Kalen King will. You never know.
Oh gosh.
Ooh, interesting. All right, let's move over to Dion, man. Talk to me about the Packers. What did you think about their draft? And give it a letter.
Yeah, this was a weird one because the Packers just had way more draft picks, so it's kind of difficult. And the one that was big was obviously the Jordan Morgan one because we had Bass on here. I thought for sure, like it got to the point where he was on the board, right? Graham Barton was on the board at 25. I thought no question that's going to be Graham Barton. So he took Jordan Morgan, just wasn't expecting that. But I don't dislike the pick. Like for me, when I initially watched Jordan Morgan, I was like, oh, this guy probably kick him into guard. But then when I revisit, I'm like, yo, this guy could stick at tackle. Like I'm a legit fan of Jordan Morgan. So I don't have an issue with the player. I think that's a great player to pick at that spot. I think it makes a ton of sense. I just wonder a little bit about the fit there because I thought maybe Rasheed Walker would start at left tackle, and then you draft Jordan Morgan. So I do wonder about that because it seemed like he handled his business last season. So maybe there's flexibility there instead of going the interior offensive line until later. Then they go back, Edgerrin Cooper. I think what's going to happen with Cooper is you have to have the right fit for him. And Green Bay might just be the perfect fit for Edgerrin Cooper. As a Lions fan, there was so much that I liked. I loved watching the player. I was just like, I can't buy in. I don't know how he fits us. But as the Packers, it might just be much more seamless. It might just work. And that guy feels like he's just going to be a wrecking ball as a defender. But then you go to the defensive backs, and they drafted like 3 safeties. Oladapo, I like that. Former cornerback, team captain. I love that. There's flexibility within that. I think Bass probably had him at one point. We were doing these mock drafts over here. No, he was a fan because I know he brought him up. But it was the Javon Bullard one for me, which I'm just not completely sold on. Like, I understand the flexibility, but every time I went through Bullard, I never really bought into knowing exactly where I loved him. I mean, for everything that I've heard, when I talk about his study habits and all those things, I'm like, okay, this guy, he's got to succeed. Feels like one of those players where it's like, he's going to work in the NFL. It's just like, I just don't know exactly how it's going to work in the NFL, but it will work in the NFL. But overall, for me, like, just looking at the draft, I'm going to sound like a hater here, man. Like it felt weird. It felt weird to me. Like I didn't dislike the players. I just don't know if I love the fits, but maybe that's because I look at things through a Lions lens more so than the Packers lens. So to be fair, this B- grade that I'm giving to the Packers may have something to do with that.
Man, oh man, interesting. What about you, Nick? What are your thoughts on the Green Bay Packers draft and give it a grade?
No, I mean, not even being funny or any of that. I think they killed it their first couple rounds. I mean, I was honestly super big fan about Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. Getting him in the third. I mean, I got to see a lot of him because of all the Caleb Williams coverage and like highlights and all that kind of stuff. I was like, man, this guy can ball. So Baz, you got a really solid running back. I know that you guys obviously just bricked up Jacobs, which is great, but you got a guy that can be right behind him. So I think you did really well there. The Jordan Morgan, at first, I was a little like, all right, like, I guess. Like, I know you needed to address the offensive line, but I thought that there was some other options out there at the time. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm not saying Jordan Morgan's a bad player. I think you addressed that left tackle position that you needed to. Cooper, I think, is a solid player. Bullard, you got, I think, if it wasn't such a offensive heavy first round, if more people needed safeties, I think you would have been off the board. So you guys got a good dog in there. But overall, really, really solid picks overall. I liked, from an offensive line standpoint, Monk out of Duke. I think he's a solid player. I had a chance to sit down with Josh Blackwell, Bears defensive back, and he played at Duke. And I said, like, who are some of the guys that you want to have on the team? And he was like, Monk is like one of them. Like, if we go offensive line, so you guys got a good player there. Just player-to-player perspective. But overall, I think you guys did a really good job. You got a ton of debt. The one I kind of was like, okay, was Pratt out of Tulane. But I don't know. Overall, I think the Packers did a good job. I give them – Baz gave me a B+, and I'm not giving him a B+ because he gave me one. I give him a B+. I think they did a solid job.
All right. You bring up Pratt. Is there a quarterback competition? I don't know.
No.
Hey, listen, Tyson Bagent, Michael Pratt, baby. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to us, Baz. Tell us what we need to know.
I'll answer that one real quick. So Brian Gutekunst wanted to get back to adding more quarterbacks into that room. We have Jordan Love, we have Sean Clifford, but if you go back in the history of the Green Bay Packers, Matt Hasselbeck, Aaron Brooks, Mark Brunell, all quarterbacks that started in Green Bay, then they kind of built them up, traded them later for better picks. It's been the Packers' way for a very long time. So he just wanted to add more talent to that quarterback room, and I think the value there was excellent. All right, back to the top of the draft. Jordan Morgan. Loved this pick. It was the one I did a final predictive mock draft, and I had Morgan as their first overall pick, albeit a little bit of a trade down. But I really like it because there's versatility there. Same as Dion, I was kind of like, this guy's a all-pro guard at the NFL level, but then when you watch more of the tape, you're like, okay, he's got quick hands, quick feet, just under 33-inch arms, so, he could definitely play tackle, and I think that's where the Packers project him long-term. But year one, it might be at right guard. So I really think that might be the year one thing, and then eventually to left tackle. And Dion, you mentioned Rasheed Walker. Well, I think Rasheed Walker might be better fit at right tackle. And then you say, oh, well, what about Zach Tom? The Packers view him as a Hall of Fame center. They said this. This is on record. They view him as a Pro Bowl right tackle, an All-Pro right guard, and a Hall of Fame center. So I think eventually they want Zach Tom at center. Josh Myers can take a hike, and then they'll have Rasheed Walker at right tackle and Jordan Morgan at left tackle in the future. Edgerrin Cooper, another guy as a beautiful fit to the Green Bay Packers. And I was so confident this would be their pick at 41. Then they traded down to 45, and I was like, man, if they miss out on Edgerrin Cooper after, I think Cooper DeJean went right before that pick, traded back with the Saints. Saints select Cooley McKinstry, two guys that were fan favorites. Getting back to 45, picking up a 5th and a 6th round, tremendous value. Edgerrin Cooper, I think, fits so well in this defense. It kind of tells me that they're going to put Quay Walker at the mic, Edgerrin Cooper kind of a will backer, but you're going to be a nickel a lot of the time in a 4-5-2 front, and having Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper as his two linebackers, that's a scary thought. Javon Bullard, Dion, I'll comment on what you said, how you say, you think he's going to be great in the NFL, you just don't know exactly where. I think it's at nickel corner. I think it's like the Brian Branch type of role there. I think year one, that's not going to be his role. I think it's going to be at safety next to McKinney, because we just paid Keyshawn Nixon a lot of money, but it's going to be a short leash. I think Bullard is going to be a great nickel defender at the NFL level. Marshawn Lloyd, shout out Wilmington, Delaware. A guy grew up right near me, so I was really happy to see this pick. A little bit of bias there. I like it. The Packers have like a revolving door at running back kind of, where they get a guy in, give him a 4-year deal at 26 years old with low guarantees, play him for 2 to 3 years, bring the next guy in, right? They just did it with Aaron Jones, brought in Josh Jacobs. By the time Josh Jacobs is through 3 years of that deal, Marshawn Lloyd going to be 26 years old. So it's going to be a similar situation, but he'll get some snaps this year, depending on what they do with A.J. Dillon. Then we have Tyron Hopper. This was also my first whoa, oh, okay, didn't expect that. We saw a lot of linebackers come off the board before some of the guys that maybe we had graded higher, like the Jeremiah Trotters, the Cedric Grays. We saw Trevin Wallace come off before, which I think the Packers were eyeing. But Lloyd, day one, going to be a solid special teamer, and we needed linebacker depth anyways. Evan Williams in the 4th, they traded up for. Safety out of Oregon, was a 4-year player, Fresno State, transferred to Oregon. Solid tackler, very aggressive type of box safety. And the Packers needed that. So we drafted 3 safeties, but if you view the future projection, Javon Bullard as like a slot cornerback, we drafted 2 safeties to add to that room with Xavier McKinney and Anthony Johnson Jr. Evan Williams, a nice box option. Jacob Monk, really like his versatility, center to guard versatility. So you got Morgan with tackle to guard versatility and Monk center to guard versatility. Could be a future right guard for the Packers. I think it's going to be a guy where it's like 3 years down the line, you're looking at this pick and you're going, wow, another Packers 4th, 5th round lineman. That's great. I just feel like that's going to be, it's just a typical Packers pick there. Oladapo, man, I actually mocked him to the Packers at this exact spot, round 5, 169. It was my most mocked Packer to the Green Bay Packers, right behind Edgerrin Cooper. And there's so many reasons why. Anthony Perkins is their defensive quality control coach now in Green Bay. He was the cornerback coach at Oregon State. There's a connection there. The Packers drafted a ton of team captains as well. Great to add a lot of those guys into an already very young roster. And Oladapo can literally do anything. Deep safety, box safety, nickel corner. The guy can hit 6'2", has decent speed. He was my favorite player in this entire draft, and I nearly jumped out of my chair when they selected him at 169 because I didn't think they would after selecting the 2 safeties prior. Glover at 202. This is kind of like an pick for me. I thought they could have went like someone like Jaheim Bell here to add to the H-back because they're kind of missing one right now. But a tackle, some future depth there, kind of like maybe turns into a Josh Nyman at some point. And then Michael Pratt, we already went over. And then Kalen King, I think is great value. The Packers are comfortable with their cornerback room right now, but I also think it's a little bit of like a chess move because the cornerback class is so strong next year. I think Gutekunst kind of wants to sit here and evaluate this cornerback room for one more year with Stokes, Jair, Valentine, Nixon, and now Kalen King. But I love the value there in the 7th, and I think it's very low risk, very high reward. Overall, the letter grade, I got A-.
A-. Well, to fit a lot of spots. How do you view the team, though? Are they ready to make an NFC championship run?
Yeah, I think they were last year, and I think they've only gotten better. I mean, when you look at all the players they've added, it's just the 2 words that come to mind are versatility and athletes, and that's what Green Bay loves. I mean, they have so much more depth now, and it's like where our holes were on the team. John Owens and Rudy Ford, Darnell Savage. I think we upgraded all of those spots. Like all of those spots got better. You could even argue that, as much as I love Aaron Jones, that Josh Jacobs a better running back than him. Marshawn Lloyd a better number 2 than AJ Dillon. Receivers stayed the same. Offensive line I think got better, but again, these guys got to start playing snaps. But I think overall, yeah, we're better.
Last question. So do you think you all became a division champ with the moves you made?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very tough one. I think this division is like crazy good right now. I mean, you have two new quarterbacks, one very established quarterback, and one riser from last. If McCarthy and Caleb Williams do pan out like people expect them to, I mean, you're talking about like a very, very crazy hard division. But in terms of 2025, I still think it's going to be between the Lions and the Packers, and I think the Packers are going to give them a good run for their money.
Interesting. All right, let's get into it. Last but not least, the team that needs to be dethroned before they feel any threat, the Detroit Lions with Dose of Dion. Before we come to him, we're going to go back to Nick and go ahead and tell us, how do you feel about the Lions draft, and give us a grade.
So I'm overlooking it, and the Lions, I don't know how they could get better. I mean, they're good.
Wow.
Dion, I hats off to you. They're a good team. The fact that you guys were one of the lone teams. I mean, obviously the Vikings picked up Dallas Turner, but getting Arnold at 24, I thought was a pretty solid pick. I know you guys needed another DB in order to, really solidify that defense, and I like what you guys did. But I mean, you guys went cornerback again in the second round, so you guys are just adding depth there. And I thought that, two solid pickups, by the way. Like both guys, I think Rakestraw is how you say it. I looked at his clip before. Dude's a baller. I mean, you got 2 dogs in the secondary now, but my favorite pick out of all yours was Mekhi Wingo, your 6th round pick at 189. I did not see him going that late. I mean, he is a big athletic defensive tackle. I know he only stands at like 6'1", maybe on a good day with cleats on, but that dude can just bully any offensive lineman in front of him. Gets really good pressure in the backfield. I don't know anything about your guard that you drafted at 210. But the Lions, solid draft. Like, it's unfair how good of a draft you guys had, considering the draft position that you had. I'm giving you guys a B+ as well. Super impressive, considering you didn't have a third. Kind of like the Bears. You just had a bunch of random late round picks, but you hit on all of them. So nice job. Hats off to the Lions.
Man, oh man, Nick giving a lot of B+ unless it's the Bears. Just wondering,
I thought for sure that had to be an A.
Maybe.
All right, let's go to one bar on this one. How do you feel about the Lions draft, and give it a grade?
Well, before I get into the big boys that you got early, I'm going to start at the bottom. Damn you, Dion. You get Mekhi Wingo and Christian Mahogany, 2 guys that I wanted the Vikings to get so damn bad. How they were there in the 6th round, like, is amazing to me. Mahogany, I mean, I thought he could go as early as like the 3rd round. It was insane. The dude is just a monster, big, powerful, beefy. Like, I was really hoping the Vikings were going to end up with him somehow, some way. And he kept falling, and you get him in the 6th. And then Wingo, another guy, that LSU defensive line, everybody knows, every one of those guys were fantastic, and I was hoping for any of them. And he just lands in your lap in round 6. So you guys killed it in the later rounds. Going up to the top, I mean, damn you again for getting Terry and Arnold at 24. I mean, this had a little bit Dallas Turner feel to it. It's like, he should not be there. And of course, the Lions are going to get him. I mean, where's their biggest weakness in the secondary? They get Arnold, and then they get Rakestraw. It was, you guys killed it. You killed it. Rakestraw, I have a feeling that I am not going to like this guy because he's just physical. He's going to be a guy that's going to annoy the living hell out of me when we play him. And he's going to be getting in our receiver's face. And it's going to be tough to watch. But Arnold and Rakestraw were an absolute huge win. The dude, your offensive lineman from Canada, that seemed like a little bit of a stretch to me. But I don't know a ton about him, so I can't say much. But just based off his projections. But I think the Lions had a fantastic draft. This is an easy A for me. Easy A.
Hey, nice. Talk to us, Baz. What are your thoughts on it?
All right. Well, first off, shout out to Dion. He mocked Rakestraw to the Lions like every time in the first round, albeit. So to get him at 61, he even did it on Bleacher Report. You said Rakestraw. You went up in the first round. You got Rakestraw. So I was like, oh, that's crazy, right? Like you should go Terry Arnold, and you guys get both. So
you
it's
called
like
him a second round guy though, so you were right too.
I know, I did. But Terry Arnold just broke my heart, man. Not that the Packers would have selected him if he fell to 25, but he was my number one cornerback. He was like a top 12 player for me. So for the Lions to get him, it's like, damn, you got to play against this guy twice a year now for many, many years to come. I think that was tremendous value getting him there at the 24. I think they gave up a little bit too much. What did they give up? 24, or sorry. Third round. Yeah. So they gave up a decent bit there. As for, I already said Ennis Rakestraw, I like him in the Lions. I think it's a perfect fit. It's just, I think I heard it best when I was watching the draft coverage. They're like, this guy looks like he wants to take your kneecaps or bite your kneecaps, right? So I was like, okay, well, that works. Like, yeah, it works. Like, yeah, 100%, right? A line, yeah. Giovanni Manu. This is a guy that the Packers actually met with, so I did a little research on him. Didn't watch any tape of him, but I left that thinking he would be like a 6th to 7th round pick. So there in the 4th, I was kind of like, okay, but I could see it, like athleticism, size, like he's a massive human. And then Sione Vaki, I'm surprised none of you mentioned him because I'm very intrigued to see what they do there. I think they listed him as a safety, then they auto-corrected themselves on Twitter and said running back. So it's kind of like when you play the old NCAA games and you're getting a guy to come to your team, it just says athlete. You're just like, all right, cool, speed, hit, he can catch, he can cover, cool, athlete, get him on the team. So I feel like that guy's going to be a nuisance on special teams year one, where it's like, God damn it, like look at this guy flying around, covering punts at the 1 yard line. Annoying, right? But also could like run a fake punt. Like Dan Campbell, that's going to be, he's going to see Sione Vaki and just be like, get him on the punt field. He's going to fake punt it and run it. Like 100%. So I love that pick. I think it's funny. Mekhi Wingo and Christian Mahogany, two great values there. Mahogany, like you guys said best, I 3rd, 4th round guy, Boston College. I thought the Packers might go after him because Jeff Hafley was just head coach there. People mover, man. Really good pick there for Mahogany in the 6th. And I give it, let's see, where do I have here? A-. So I've tied with the Packers.
A-. All right. Well, Dion, we're going to get your final take. It's just very interesting to me, though, Dion. The Lions went to the NFC Championship game. Where did they come up short? The 49ers put up offense. The Lions put up offense. But both teams need to stop one another. And I think you all really addressed that. What were your thoughts on the draft and what grade did you give?
Yeah, TD, what's interesting about that is I used an example after we took Rakestraw because there was a very significant group. It's like, why did we go back-to-back cornerback here? And I actually used Bass's Packers. And the example that I had the second time we played you guys on Thanksgiving is like, bro, we couldn't cover anybody. I mean, he was picking us apart, trying to sit in zone coverage. And and the Lions wanted to get back to it. They wanted to have it. Dan Campbell said it was like a run game to be able to go sit in man coverage. That's something the Lions have been able to do the last couple of seasons. So I think they're getting back to that with their first 2 picks. Going to help them a ton there. But I'll just jump it off with Sione Vaki. We'll just start right there because when I had watched him, I was like, this guy's a safety. So I'm marking him down as a safety. And I thought one theme throughout the Lions draft for me personally, just my grades, I had higher FBI scores in most categories. So football intelligence was huge. And I thought that's why Vaki, maybe that's why they took him. But then, it's like, all right, let me just check out the carries. Let me just see what he does. And I think he's a running back. I think he's a running back for the Lions. I think Baz made a great point. Like you put him on punt team. We do run fake punts a ton for some reason, but we do it. And he would be actually perfect for that. So it makes a ton of sense. But yeah, to me, he's a running back. I think you can see the 40 carries that he had, immediately step away, be like, yeah, that guy looked awesome in pretty much every single carry that you watched there. So I actually came back, gave that pick an A+. At first, I was like, I don't really know because I think he's safety. I think he's an A+ running back. I think that's where he's going to thrive for us. And you look at where the backs were kind of going at that point. You had a couple true backs, like you had Estime and stuff go around there. But then you got into guys like Keelan Robinson, who didn't really have any carries either, coming out of Texas and Alabama. And then go to the top. Yeah, for me, Terry Arnold, I'm right with you guys. Like to me, he was my number 1 cornerback, so I didn't think there was any shot we'd do it. But as the draft just slowly kind of worked along, it was like, this might actually happen. Now, the trade value chart, we did lose that. I think we won it last year, but this year, like, we were way off on the trade value chart based on whatever you look at. It was like, all right, we lost that one. But to what One Bar said, this is where I completely agree. When you're going to get Dallas Turner, right, you have to see, okay, well, where am I actually ranking this guy? Is he a top 10 guy for me? And I think that's where you have to tell yourself about Terry Arnold, right? It's not that I moved up here and the value doesn't play out. It's that I had him ranked as a top 15 kind of guy. He was my number 1 cornerback. So the fact that he's here, whatever, take the 3rd round pick. It felt like the Lions were just like, just just take it. We'll do it. We're going to get the guy. And then, yes, back to get Rakestraw. He's a Lion. He fits as a Lion. It's just that one just makes sense. I mean, you just watch the physicality to play with, as you guys point out. I think it will give us some slot versatility. Then outside of that, offensive line, it was Giovanni Manu. And, man, this guy, first off, trying to find games for this dude. I'm watching the wrong player for like a straight hour. And I'm like, this could not be the guy the Lions drafted. Like, this is not it. And I realized, like, oh, this ain't even the right school. Finally found it. And I think, you know how tough that is to have a whole page of notes and you're watching the wrong team. You're like, this ain't even the right number. I'm taking clips of the wrong number. But when I step back, I think this guy actually could play guard for the Lions. I really do. Now, they might view it more as a tackle. His length, his measurables scream tackle, but I think athletically speaking, what he brings right now, if you want an immediate plug in and play, push him in the guard. He's got the footwork, he's got the control to do that. But I do think maybe long term, this is a little bit more of a tackle vision. You're just going to have to clean up the footwork, man, because at the top of the rush, I mean, who the heck is rushing against this guy? And he's losing the same way over and over and over. And it's like he's just losing the same way. It's like he doesn't have a plan to combat what's going at him. So athletically speaking, I think it makes sense because once you get to the third round, especially if you view him as a tackle, once you get third round and beyond, I mean, you're talking about guys who are like, I don't know if they have the athlete in them to actually be a future tackle unless you're the Packers who just find them in 7th round somehow. So yeah, Mekhi Wingo, I'm with y'all, man. Mekhi Wingo. I think what the Lions said about him potentially playing DN was kind of the big surprise to me because I was like, oh, this is an interior guy. You just have to be able to put on weight. If you believe you can, take this guy. So that was the one I was most hyped about because to me, Mekhi Wingo, again, super intelligent player. I thought technically like he could handle business in the inside. It's just like you probably put on some weight. But the Lions give him as a little bit as a defensive end. Maybe that's nothing that you really run into a problem with, though his arm length doesn't naturally like say defensive end. That's an interesting one, though, because it does give the Lions a little bit of pass rush. I thought he was a plus pass rush upside. And then finally, like you guys said, Christian. When we took him, man, it was like, to me, it's two halves. You watch the beginning of the season, you're like, this doesn't look great. You love him as a polar. I mean, I don't know that I've seen an offensive lineman that play to play is constantly just driving guys backwards. It's like, dude, this guy is playing 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. But then you're like, this looks pretty rough in pass protection. I think later in the season, when you saw it kind of dial in, you stop seeing the kind of like first step weirdness off the line of scrimmage where he's slowing himself down as a polar, as his own blocker. Once that dialed in, he looked like a different player. So overall, man, like those were the two I had the biggest questions about was offensive line both times because I think you could make arguments to go at different spots to do it. But the first two to me sold me. Those were A pluses to me. So overall, I'm giving the draft an A for the Lions. Sorry if I talked a lot there. I apologize.
No, you're good. Listen, man. These are. I'm gonna be honest with you. The NFC North, they had some business, man. No C grades. In the entire draft, every team's ready for war. I want to run a quick exercise. Let's try to do this as fast as we can. Nick, go ahead and give me your early division rankings 1 through 4.
Okay, so this one's super easy. Bears number 1, and then I'm gonna go Green Bay number 2, and then I'm gonna go Lions number 3, and then I'm gonna go Minnesota number 4.
They laughing at you, Nick, but they don't know something you might know.
You guys all thought I was crazy when the Bears were still had playoff hopes in week 8, and you know what? All the way to the last weekend, we were talking.
Where'd that end up? Yeah, so where'd that end up?
How you doing?
Oh, man. One more, rank them for me.
I will go Lions, Packers.
Wow.
Nick's looking at me
He's
like
pondering it.
You know what? I'm not going to drink. I'm going to put Bears, Vikings. I will say this.
Wow.
I'll say that the Vikings could absolutely surprise with J.J. McCarthy with the weapons we have and with Brian Flores, what he did with that defense. I know I'm supposed to be quick, but I will put us last just because I got to do the show justice. I can't just say I'm putting the Vikings one. So here we go.
All right. Talk to us, Bass.
Going Packers 1. You know, I talked about it. I said it's going to be a really close fight, but I think the Packers end up with it. Lions 2. I got Bears 3, and I got Vikings 4. Just under the pretense, I think they should run Sam Darnold, let JJ sit for a year, and under that, they'd be 4th. So,
all right. Well, thank all 4 of you for your early predictions. Go ahead, Dion. Go ahead.
You already know it's what, TD. We don't need to do it, to be honest with you. We don't need to. Because so I got Lions 1, I got Bears 2, Packers 3, Vikings 4.
Wow.
Hey, I'll take it.
Look how excited Nick is. He just made Nick's night, man.
I just upset him.
I'm going home.
He just
Nick
switched that. He
pants
switched
full.
that.
Nick said, clip it.
I was trying to be nice with Detroit matching that draft grade A-, back to B+.
Everybody picked the Vikings last, right? Including myself. All right. I'm going to remember that.
It's actually shocking to me. That's very shocking. But we're gonna see. But I will say this: the NFC North obviously looks like they're gonna cause some trouble this year throughout the NFL. I can't wait for schedule release for us to talk about that and more. Thank you, everyone that tuned in to today's show on the NFC North Roundtable. We have the grades in. Go check them out. Even on social media, we're going to be posting some graphics of the grades. About 250 people watching right now. Over 200 on NFC North Roundtable on YouTube, and almost 50 on Roundtable Sports on Twitter right now. Salute to you all for showing love and showing support. Until next time, we will see you soon. Peace. We are out. NFC North.